Hello, hello, my name is Masha and today I'm going to teach you how to make this gorgeous plaid friendship bracelet. If you've never made bracelets before, this might not be the one you want to start with. This one is a little bit more on the difficult side just because there's quite a few steps. If you are a beginner, I have plenty of beginner tutorials which will be linked in the description. There is a whole playlist of them. That said, for my more intermediate or even advanced knotters, this tutorial might go a little bit quicker just because I expect that you already understand how to make bracelets as a whole. For this bracelet, you're going to need 3 colors. I went with a pink gradient here, so we've got 2 shades of pink and a white. You're going to need 2 strings of white, 4 strings of the darker color, 6 strings of the lighter color. Each string can be roughly a meter in length. One thing that I definitely would recommend is making the colors different enough from each other. I made this mistake at the beginning. I actually filmed this tutorial with this bracelet. I feel like the colors really blend in here. You can't see the plaid pattern very well. It just doesn't show up. And then I changed it. I decided it wasn't good enough, and so I picked out a different color, and I think this looks a lot better. So I would recommend when you're choosing the colors to make sure that they are different enough so that you will be able to actually see the plaid pattern as you go. That said, let's get into it. I started my bracelet with a half triangle end. To save time, I have a separate tutorial for that. It'll be linked in the card and in the description. All you need to know about this pattern to do it is the string order. I started with 2 light pink strings, 2 dark pink strings, 2 white strings, 4 light pink strings, and 2 dark pink strings. If you're starting a bracelet in some other way, keeping the strings in this order will help you follow this tutorial. To start with, we're going to focus on the 4 strings on the left. With the outermost string, which is a light pink string, I'm going to do 3 forward knots onto the next 3 strings, which is a light pink and 2 dark pink strings. After that's done, I take the string that is now the outermost string, which is another light pink string, and I do 2 forward knots. There are 2 dark pink strings remaining here. I can do a forward knot between them as well. The pattern actually shows a backward knot, but because these 2 strings are the same color, you can do any knot between them, and making a forward knot on the left side kind of keeps your strings in the center, which is what I want to do. Next, we're going to focus on the 2 light pink strings that we just used, and we're going to bring out the 2 white strings. The white string that is closest to the pink strings is going to do a backward knot onto one of the pink strings and a backward forward knot on the next one. The other white string is going to do a backward forward knot on the pink string next to it. Now we come back to the first white string we used, and onto that same pink string that we just made a backward forward knot onto, we're going to make a forward knot. We just created our first little diamond. Now there's not one right way to segment knot. There's many different ways that you can do this pattern, as long as you do all of the correct knots. We're going to focus on the 4 strings on the left again, starting with the light pink string that is closest to the edge. This light pink string is going to do 2 backward knots onto the 2 dark pink strings here. And it might be helpful when we did that forward knot to kind of come back and retighten it just in case, to make sure that it didn't come loose while we were doing some other stuff. So 2 backward knots with the light pink string on the dark pink ones. Now the next light pink string does the exact same, 2 backward knots on the dark pink strings. I sometimes use my fingers to kind of adjust the pattern to make sure that it's not spreading apart too far. Now we're going to focus on the 2 white strings here and grab the 2 pink strings closest to it. And the same thing is going to happen. The pink string that is closest to the white ones is going to do 2 backward knots first, and then the other one is also going to do 2 backward knots on the same white strings. Now we're moving to the dark pink and the white. Let's focus on these 4 strings first. There should be 2 dark pink strings and 2 light pink strings. The dark pink one that is closest to the light pink ones is going to do 1 forward and 1 forward backward knot onto the pink strings. Sometimes when a forward backward knot is done, or a backward forward, it can mess up the knot that was done on the string before, or with the string before. So sometimes I like pull on this white one, for example, to kind of make sure that it's correct. Now that we've done that, the other dark pink string does a forward backward knot on the light pink string next to it. And then that first dark pink string we used, first of all, we can tighten the forward backward knot again. Those tend to come undone as you're making other knots, or at least loosen up a little bit. And we're going to do a backward knot onto the next pink string. And there we go. Again, I'm using my fingers just to make sure that everything is kind of sitting in the place that I want it to. I'm going to put all of these strings to the side, and I am entirely focused on the 2 white and the 2 light pink strings here. These dark pink strings are off to the side as well. The white string that is closest to the light pink strings is going to do a forward and then a forward backward knot. Then the other white string is going to do a forward backward knot on the light pink string here. And the first white string we use does a backward knot. We've done more than half. We bring back these light pink strings here, and we're going to do the light pink part in between the dark pink and the white parts. Here it's really simple. Again, we take the string that is closest to the white, which is this light pink one. We do 2 forward knots with that, and then this one also does 2 forward knots on the same 2 white strings. The 2 light pink strings we just used, we can put them off to the side along with the white strings. There are 2 more light pink strings that are coming out of that white part that we did previously. We're going to be focusing on those and also these 2 dark pink strings. We are doing the exact same thing. The light pink string that is closest to the dark ones is going to do 2 forward knots onto each of these strings, 1 on each. And then this one is also going to do 2 forward knots onto the dark pink strings. Now we bring back the light pink strings from the left, and we're focusing on these 4 strings, 2 light pinks on the left, 2 dark pinks from the right. The dark pink closest to the light pinks is going to do a backward and a backward forward knot. The next one is just going to do a backward forward knot onto the string that is closest to it, which is the light pink. And then we bring back the first dark pink string we use, and it does a forward knot onto the light pink. And again, I fix this, kind of shape it out to how I want it to look as I go along. Sometimes I use my nail, sometimes I use my finger, but I just make sure that it's looking right. It's a lot easier to kind of push the bracelet into the shape that you want it as you're making it than going back and doing it later. All right, 4 strings at the edge. We've got 2 light pink, 2 dark pink, the last few remaining bits of the repeating pattern. The outermost string, which is the light pink, does 3 backward knots. The new outermost string, which is this light pink, is going to do 2 backward knots. And finally, we have 2 strings on the edge, both of which are pink. In the pattern, it shows to do a forward knot. I'm going to do a backward knot here, again, because when it's 2 strings the same color, it doesn't matter what knot you do between them. And on edges, I like to make knots that point towards the inside of the bracelet. So on the right side, I do backward knots to kind of point the strings in. On the left side, I do forward knots to point the strings in. This kind of helps keep my edges consistent. So if you're ever following a different pattern and you see that, it's 2 strings of the same color and the pattern indicates to point out, don't do that. If it's 2 strings of the same color, it doesn't matter. So just do whatever knot points inside the bracelet instead. So I'm doing a backward knot here. And there we go, that is it. That is the repeating pattern. The colors didn't even change, so you can literally scroll back to the beginning of this tutorial and follow it exactly. It's going to be the exact same. I have timestamps in the description to make it easy for you to skip around. I'm gonna go finish this bracelet off camera. Once I'm done, I'm gonna finish it off with another half triangle end. Within the same tutorial that shows you how to start them, it also shows you how to end them, so I'll link back to that again. It's in the card and in the description. So I'm gonna go finish this and I'll be back with you once I'm done. And this is how the bracelet turned out. I started it with a half triangle end and a twisted tie, finished it the same way. I think they go really well together. I also kind of just love how they end up lining up. I definitely recommend making this bracelet, and I think you could do a really cool collection with this and just like a bunch of different colors. I kind of wish I did this, but I'm already making like 3 other bracelets right now, so I need to chill. But if you do end up making this bracelet, definitely tag me on Instagram. I would love to see them. My book, The Beginner's Guide to Friendship Bracelets, is out everywhere in the world, and you can buy it any way you typically buy books. It makes for a really good holiday gift if that's something that you're thinking about. There is also a direct link in the description to make it easier for you. If you live in a country where you're not sure about delivery, then you can reach out to the publisher. Again, link in the description, and they should be able to help you out. Before I go, I also want to give a special shout out to my patrons, and especially my top supporters. It is with your support that I'm able to create videos on this channel, and I truly appreciate that. If you also want to become a supporter, the link to my Patreon is in the description. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching. Really excited to be back to making tutorials again. I know I took a quite long break, but thank you for sticking around and thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Bye!